is Shannon No, and I'm with West Liberty University for the Master of Arts program in Education. And this I'm presenting to you is my capstone. The subject of my capstone is the Mozart effect, the power of music and its aid in the cognitive development. First, I'd like to share with you my presentation outline. I do have my introduction, problem statement, statement of purpose, the literature review, the methodology of the research, and then, of course, some attachments of what I use for my methodology. Ideally, every child is exposed to music throughout their whole lives, in school, at home, private lessons, to provide the positive stimulation, brain growth, development, motor skills, and all around, cultural diversity. Moreover, children who are exposed to such tend to be better in school, have, quicker reflexes, and a further cognitive development than those of their peers. However, the reality is that music is the first thing to be eliminated through music programs in schools. Also, not everyone can afford music lessons after school. They do tend to be something that not everyone can afford. Also, most of schooling is focused upon math, science, and reading. Therefore, the arts, such as music, are one of the things that are not most looked at to be very important. So I'd like for, the problem to be solved that curriculum design. Now, the purpose of my study is to provide concrete evidence by using research articles and qualitative analysis of the benefits of music education on cognitive development in early childhood. And here's my literature review. This literature review examines the study of the effect that music composed by Mozart has on the brain and its function and cognitive development. One piece of music, labeled K448 in the Mozart labeling system, has been used for research. Study has shown that children who listen to this piece of music before or during a test versus students who did not listen to it during or before a test performed significantly better than those who did not. Also, the Mozart effect has been investigated through many different experiments, not only just the one that was aforementioned, but there are various findings, and according to the theory, there are a maximum of positive results. Initially, in 1988, neurobiologist Gordon Shaw and his graduate assistant Xiaodan Lang were attempting to model brain function using a computer. Now, as you know, technology back then was nothing as it is now, so you can imagine what the graphing looked like as the brainwaves were being documented on the computer. So Shaw was looking at this computer analysis of brain function, and he noticed that it had a very similar rhythm to something that he had heard before. And additionally, that was of a piece of music that he loved very, very much. So within this finding, he and Xiaodan thought, well, how come, if the brain produces functions that are rhythmic in sounds such as music from the Baroque period or, the classical period, then how can we not study brain function listening to music? Further research showed, Lang and Shaw, they teamed up with Eric Wright to create a model to show patterns for spatial temporal reasoning. They wanted to map out the pitches, map out the brain function, compare. Again, this showed nuances of musical styles within the rhythms of the brain functions. And additionally, it shows that brain function is very much connected to music. In 1993, Shaw teamed up with another team, Rauscher and Kai, at the University of California, Irvine, to conduct a study on the spatial exposed to different environments, 2 of which were music. There were 3 groups, 3 environments. One was no sound at all. Second being Mozart's K448, as in the initial study in 1988. And then the third finding was a different kind of music. The results showed a significant increase in those students' IQs who were listening to Mozart's K448 in the study versus those who were listening to nothing and the other type of music. The Mozart effect has become, over the years, since the 80s, a very common household term. One gentleman, Don Campbell, he was a musician, he was a father. He wrote a book about this experience. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor. They told him that he was not able to recover. It was, going to be the end of him. However, he sought out more holistic approaches to medicine, one of which was musical healing. He went for several sessions to someone who would heal him by using Mozart. He also, and this idea came from Dr. Alfred Tomatis, who is a French researcher. It was Pourquoi Mozart, which is why Mozart. Tomatis used Mozart's music to help his patients communicate with their peers as well as musicians who thought that they had lost their voice. Campbell used the same approach by outlining in detail how children are exposed to Mozart, starting at a young age, will have significant positive development of their cognitive skills. Upon the release of Campbell's book, there have been several things: TV shows, CDs, books, a whole plethora of things that classrooms and parents can use to promote the musical listening cognitive development. Hence, the Mozart effect being coined as a very common term in today's society. Again, musical healing. Campbell really brought this out into the open by healing his brain tumor by using music to heal so. The first time we hear any music is the rhythmic heartbeat of our mothers. So literally from conception, we are listening to some form of music. We can analyze our feelings by tapping into our inner selves by listening to music, and aesthetic experiences target brain function. Alzheimer's patients could be miles away and listen to a song, and it takes them right back to that moment where they were when they heard that the first time. A study shows that using Mozart's music on patients of different ages, as well as different stages of epilepsy, showed a significant result. Music was played for patients who were comatose but experiencing seizures while in the coma. There were results of movement per hour while Mozart's K448 was being played. On the hour, at the top of every hour, it dropped a stunning 15% in the patients who were having the seizures. So the connection between the brain function and the music, even if one is not, active, if one is in a vegetative state, their brain is still processing the music and operating at a higher function. Music and arousal hypothesis. In 1999, Chabris did a 16-study meta-analysis of the Mozart effect and the neurological explanation behind the results of the Rauscher-Shaw-Kai study. Chabris found small results linked to the spatial task performance. However, results did point toward a link in the mood arousal stimulation based on performance while listening to Mozart's K448. Researchers conducted a study using the same paper and folding test based upon the Stanford Binet Intelligence Test, IQ test, used in the 1993 study, but they changed the listening into 2 groups instead of 3. One being Mozart's K448, and the other being an Adagio piece by Albinoni. Results showed that participants who listened to Mozart did in fact score significantly higher on positive mood and arousal, thus linking the 2 theories together. So we have spatial task performance linked with also mood arousal when listening to the 2 different types of music. Educators know learning environments a mood, the aesthetics, the ambiance, whatever word you'd like to use for it, are all connected to how well our students perform, how well they learn, and how well the brain function does happen. Music and its link to cognition. Music being of a more upbeat nature caused Perlovsky and his team to raise the question, would there be a different effect if one were to study a negative or a slower paced music using the same methodology? Students were put into two groups, one of which was put under stressful conditions but listening to Mozart, and the second put under the same conditions but listening to music with much more dissonance. Dissonance is described as notes that are very close together on the scale. It wouldn't be a very harmonious sounding effect. It's more like they are knocking into one another. Dissonance, it creates tension. The results showed significantly better test scores amongst those students who were subjected to Mozart even under the stressful conditions, thus proving the connection of cognitive thinking and the musical stimulation. Again, in 2012, Marcus Pierce and Martin Rohrmeyer featured an article deducing the three major roles that music has played in the development of the human cognition: human development, human evolution, and cognitive mechanisms in musical behaviors. Pierce and Rohrmeyer have connected the complexity of musical cognition and how these several varieties have come about through cognitive development. Several other authors have broached the subject discussing the use of the full brain, not just the right brain while listening, playing, or composing music. Rauscher goes on to explain in an article from 2006 that through thorough and constant music instruction, a more precise development of spatial task performance is not only the result listening of 10 minutes of Mozart a day, but learning to play an instrument uses analytical thinking, reflective skills. It's all stored in different parts of the brain, so you're using both sides of the brain while learning an instrument, thus promoting the music cognition correlation. Within my findings, a methodology that I would like to use for my qualitative analysis would be a propulsive sampling model. I want to determine if music does have a cognitive effect on children's learning abilities in their early to young childhood education. So merely looking at, or mainly looking at elementary education for students who are pre-K to 5th grade, so around 11 years old, how being exposed to music at this age will affect your performance in school, or not just in school, but your brain development. So the test is made up of 24 students from 2 different elementary schools, 12 from each. Half of the 12 the participants are 24 students, 12 from one elementary school, 12 from a neighboring elementary school. Within each school, I'd have 6 students who are exposed to playing a musical instrument or having musical background. The other 6, of course, having no experience with a musical instrument or musical background. And this is being said for both elementary schools to get a grasp of different economic, socioeconomic statuses, different neighborhoods, and different kids. Both girls and boys, grades K through 5. And that's all here in Wheeling, West Virginia. They're, of course, chosen upon their musical merit. I would have to do so by just asking questions to teachers and to students and parents. Picking the children is solely based upon that fact, no other fact. All right, once I have the children chosen, the procedure I'd like to use first is giving the kids a pretest. Not lengthy by any means. I just want to get a prior knowledge of their thoughts towards music, their thoughts on, if they are playing an instrument, how do you feel about that? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you like school? How do you like school? Do you perform well in school? Just to get a basis of what kind of student they are and what kind of brain function they have prior to even experimenting with anything like this. Second is the survey. The survey will be taken throughout the process. First question, why do they or do they not take music lessons? Are your parents forcing you? Do you love to do it? Did you choose your own instrument? I want to know these things. Secondly, how often do they actively participate in school? Are they raising their hands and participating consistently? Are they volunteering for things? Are they a big helper in class, or do they sit in the back and just go with the flow? Lastly, how often do they participate in musical activity? So, if you are playing an instrument, I want to know how often. Are you practicing every day? Do you have lessons once a week? Is it more than one instrument, or mom and dad pushing you? Just to get a gauge on the function of the activity. Lastly, I will have a questionnaire for their teachers in their general classrooms. The reason being, for data collection, I need to know how they perform in school to gauge the differences between the non-musical students versus the musical students. It's a questionnaire of 6 questions for the teacher. How well does so-and-so do in your class? Does so-and-so ever get into trouble? At what subjects does so-and-so excel? How quickly does so-and-so do their work? When testing, what kind of results does so-and-so have? And how often do you have to explain strategies and procedures to so-and-so? I believe the results of this questionnaire would really have me I believe the results of this questionnaire would give me a brilliant idea of how well the students are performing, test scores, what is the level of brain function with the musical students versus the non-musical students, would that show a significant difference between the two performances in class. Results from the pretest survey and questionnaire will be noted in graph to show comparisons with students. 1 graph per 12 students from each school. Data can prove further cognitive development for students who participate in music outside of school and allow for growth in the music community all around. Thank you very much. That's my presentation. The Mozart effect is a real thing. It has been going on since the 80s, and I do hope that research continues to follow through, thus proving that the spatial task performance, brain development, and cognitive development are all affected by music.